Beneath our feet lies a hidden world, a place shrouded in darkness and deep, unsolved mystery, a realm packed with secrets humans were never meant to uncover. From ancient cities swallowed by time to bizarre artifacts that defy explanation, this underground world holds some of history's most chilling and jaw-dropping discoveries. Some have completely rewritten how we see the past, while others still baffle scientists and send chills across the globe. Tonight, you're about to step inside a hidden world that few dare to explore. I'm Miles in, and we're going deep beneath the surface to reveal 100 incredible finds underground. Things that shocked archaeologists, terrified civilizations, and forever changed the way we see our world. You have no idea what might be hiding right beneath your feet. Buried treasure in underground cities, forgotten ancient civilizations, and even sports cars hidden in someone's backyard. Take James Bristle, for example. While working his soybean fields in southern Michigan, his excavator hit something unusual, a strange metal structure buried in the soil. But when he and his friend took a closer look, it wasn't a fence at all. It was the pelvis of an ancient woolly mammoth that roamed the earth 15,000 years ago. A team from the University of Michigan joined in, using excavators to recover about 20% of the mammoth skeleton, including the skull, to massive tusks, several vertebrae, ribs, and even a shoulder blade. Researchers now believe that humans might have been nearby at the time, possibly butchering the mammoth and storing its meat for later use. Near the remains, they also found 3 boulder-sized stones, likely used to weigh the carcass down and keep it submerged in a pond. Mammoths and mastodons once roamed North America until they vanished around 11,700 years ago. Over 300 mastodon skeletons in Michigan alone, and 30 mammoth remains have been uncovered. But the mammoth found in Bristle's field was by far one of the most complete ever discovered. Ancient Egyptian god Thoth once wrote that beneath the Sphinx's paw lies a mysterious library of knowledge. Legend says this library holds the oldest secrets of alchemy, astronomy, mathematics, magic, and medicine. To this day, no one has ever found the Hall of Records. Some believe it might tie to chambers in the Saqqara pyramids, where pharaohs brought their wisdom after death. American psychic Edgar Cayce once claimed under hypnosis that he had known of the library in a past life. He mentioned a secret tunnel at the Sphinx's right paw, leading to an underground chamber. Despite countless attempts to locate this hidden hall, it remains undiscovered. Archaeologists and researchers are still trying to solve the mystery. And maybe one day, we'll finally learn more. One of history's oldest and most mysterious finds. The Klerksdorp spheres stand out. These tiny spheres, etched with perfectly straight grooves, found by miners near Klerksdorp, South Africa, and their age, absolutely mind-blowing. Over 3 billion years old. That's older than life on Earth itself. Naturally, this sparked endless theories, because at first glance, they look man-made, with their perfect shape, parallel grooves, and symmetrical design. Which, of course, has led some to wonder, were they left behind by extraterrestrials? This sparked theories about alien intervention. But scientists dug deeper into the mystery. Their analysis showed these spheres were made of minerals like hematite and pyrite. Inside, their structure spread out in fibers from the center outward, a radial pattern, which shows their natural mineral formations. Even so, many still believe they were crafted by aliens. Billions of years ago, what kind of force could have shaped something so strange? To this day, no one has a clear answer. Sometimes a single accidental discovery can peel back the curtain on an entire era. In 1931, in the heart of Rome, near the Grand Circus Maximus, that's exactly what happened. Builders uncovered something hidden underground, and when archaeologists arrived, they were stunned. Before them stood a nearly intact temple, a sacred place dedicated to one of Rome's most mysterious gods, Mithras. The Temple of Mithras, known as such, it dates to the 2nd-3rd century AD. Its design shocked researchers. 5 parallel halls to massive staircases leading straight to the arena, and countless rooms clearly built for ritual use. The eastern entrance opened into a courtyard. Inside stood religious figures, statues, containers, and replicas. Beyond the courtyard lay the assembly hall. Its marble floors and interior details, still amazingly well preserved. In the main hall, a semicircular niche once held statues of Mithras. But the most precious find was a carved relief showing Mithras' sacred ritual, the slaying of the bull. Mithras drives his sword into the bull, surrounded by symbols of the sun, the moon, ravens, and other sacred signs. The relief stretches across the stone, even showing Mithras carrying the slain bull across his shoulders. It wasn't just a piece of art. It told a full story carved into stone, exposing the rituals of Rome's enigmatic cult. Today, the Temple of Mithras near the Circus Maximus is open to visitors. By reservation only, it's more than a tourist site. It's a time capsule, preserving the spiritual life of the ancients, and all of it lies, quite literally, beneath the feet of modern Romans. In Egypt's Valley of the Kings, Tomb KV6 held one of the most famous pharaohs, Tutankhamun. His mummy was unearthed in 1922 by archaeologist Howard Carter, hidden beneath workers' huts from the Ramesses era. The tomb escaped ancient looters, thanks to the cover of those ruins. Inside were 4 chambers, packed with treasures. Because of the cramped conditions, everything was piled up in disorder. But Carter's methodical work took 8 years to catalog. In the end, over 5,000 artifacts were recovered, including the world-famous Golden Mask of Tutankhamun. The tomb is often called untouched, but that's not entirely true. Evidence shows it was broken into at least twice, shortly after the burial. Some doorways were forced open and then resealed. It's estimated that nearly 60% of the jewelry was stolen by ancient thieves. What remained was hastily stacked together. Meanwhile, in northern Laos lies a cultural site known as the Plain of Jars. Here, thousands of massive stone jars dot the highlands of the Xiangguang Plateau. Archaeologists believe these were created by ancient inhabitants 1,500 to 2,000 years ago, but their culture and way of life remain a mystery, scattered across the high plains of Xinjiang. Archaeologists believe these massive stone jars were built by the ancient people of this region around 1,500 to 2,000 years ago, but their culture and way of life remain a mystery to this day. Most artifacts that have been unearthed date back to between 500 and 800 BC. Anthropologists and archaeologists speculate that these stone jars may have been used as urns or as storage containers for food. Local legends even tell of a race of giants whose king was a mighty warrior. After a decisive battle, the king ordered thousands of giant jars to be made to hold vast quantities of Laotian rice wine, so he could invite his lords to a feast that would never end. In a cave on top of a peat bog, archaeologists found human remains, some calcified, others reduced to ashes. This provided support for the urn theory. During the Vietnam War, a U.S. bomb destroyed one of the caves that locals had once used as a shelter. For a long time, people believed the Patagodoton was the largest dinosaur to ever exist. But a research team from Argentina's National Scientific and Technical Research Council made a stunning discovery. In the Sierra Chata area north of Aquello, in Neuquén Province, Argentina, they unearthed the fossils of a gigantic titanosaur. Titanosaurs were a group of sauropods, massive long-necked dinosaurs with extremely long necks and tails. It's estimated they reached 20 to 25 meters in length, weighing over 40 tons. Some estimates even suggest they could have weighed up to 100 tons. Their legs were like giant pillars, and they lived about 100 million years ago. During the Cretaceous period, mainly in South America, especially Patagonia. From these fossils, scientists identified vertebrae and pieces of the pelvis, even though the rest of the skeleton has not yet been found. This discovery provided enough evidence for scientists to estimate the dinosaur's original size. These findings confirm that titanosaurs may have been much larger than previously thought, surpassing even the Patagodoton. Most of us have hobbies. Sometimes they have nothing to do with our jobs. But every now and then, a hobby can lead to an amazing discovery. In 2016, 56-year-old Belgian man Vincent Michel proved just that. He was a gym teacher. With a passion for exploring abandoned places, he traveled to France to investigate an abandoned mine. At first, everything seemed ordinary. But after walking through a long tunnel, he stepped into a massive cavern. What he saw was unbelievable. A hidden treasure trove of vintage cars. Dozens of vehicles from the 1930s were neatly lined up, as if patiently waiting for something. Unfortunately, the condition of these cars was terrible. Almost nothing remained inside them. Even so, the discovery itself left Vincent in awe. When he got home, he shared the story with the media. Later, it was revealed that most of the cars belonged to local residents. They were likely hidden away after Hitler launched the Western Front campaign to prevent their property from being seized by German forces. People drove their cars into the mine. Over time, the cars rusted away and were forgotten. Their owners may have passed away, or simply moved on with their lives. Judging by the empty bullet casings at the site, Vincent wasn't the first to stumble upon this place. But his story rekindled interest in the hidden wartime secrets buried underground. It's been 80 years since World War II ended. Yet its traces still appear in the most unexpected places. In December 2016, workers in Augsburg, Germany, were digging in the city center when they unearthed a World War II bomb. Danger was right in front of them. Authorities decided the bomb had to be defused, but that meant evacuating 54,000 residents. That's nearly a third of the entire city. The operation was scheduled right around Christmas. Officials even said it was like giving the people a gift, the chance to celebrate the holidays in safety. At dawn, the massive evacuation got underway. 900 police officers were deployed, along with transport for hospital patients, the elderly, and members of the clergy. Schools and gyms were turned into temporary shelters. Meanwhile, bomb experts went to work in an empty city center. They quickly confirmed that the bomb was a British Royal Air Force blockbuster. It weighed 2 tons and was one of the most destructive types ever made. If it exploded, everything within a 1.5-kilometer radius would have been flattened. Thankfully, the defusal was a success. Just 2 hours later, residents were allowed to return home. Sometimes the most shocking discoveries are hiding right under our noses, even in our own backyard. That's exactly what happened in Los Angeles in 1978. A group of kids were playing in someone's yard when they suddenly got the idea to dig a hole. So, they grabbed some little shovels and started digging. As they dug, one of them hit something strange plastic. And soon, something even crazier appeared. Buried beneath the soil was a real car. When the kids uncovered part of its metal body, they ran to tell their parents. Detectives quickly rushed to the scene. After digging further, they were stunned. It was a nearly brand new Ferrari 246 GTS, carefully buried underground. Naturally, the big question came up. How on earth did an expensive Ferrari end up under a suburban lawn? Police launched an investigation. They checked the car's serial number and found it belonged to a man named Rosendo Cruz. He had once given the car to his wife as a birthday gift. But here's the twist. The car had been reported stolen the very next day, and the thief was never caught. It took detectives a long time to piece it together, but eventually they uncovered the truth. The theft had been staged. Rosendo Cruz himself had orchestrated the scheme. His goal, insurance fraud. He buried the Ferrari underground, hoping one day he could dig it back up. The plan was almost flawless, if not for a group of curious kids and their shovels. Without them, this clever little con in the suburbs might never have been exposed. Deep in the heart of Vietnam lies a hidden wonder, a natural marvel unlike anywhere else on Earth. Sun Dune Cave. It's the largest cave in the world, and its interior is absolutely breathtaking. Its total volume, a staggering 38.5 million cubic meters. The ceiling soars up to 250 meters high and stretches about 150 meters across, and yet, despite its massive size, it was only recently that scientists even learned it existed. Local villagers first stumbled upon the entrance in 1991, but it wasn't until 2009 that British researchers finally explored it. What they saw inside left them speechless. Deep within the cave was an entire hidden world of its own, with a unique microclimate. An ancient underground river still flows through it. Over millions of years, it has created a one-of-a-kind ecosystem. thanks to its special humidity and temperature. Sun Dune Cave is home to giant stalagmites up to 70 meters tall. Clouds can even form beneath its ceiling. And the most astonishing discovery: it's like a real underground forest. Some of the trees reach 3 meters tall, and hundreds of animals live among the branches. From fish in the lakes to rare birds and insects, it's all here. Some of the plants and fungi found here have never been recorded by science before. Vietnam now allows visitors to see this wonder. But the number of tourists is tightly controlled, fewer than 500 people each year. And that restriction is crucial, because this place isn't just a cave. It's an entire hidden world. Deep within the earth, its fragile ecosystem needs careful protection. Meanwhile, in Luton, 37-year-old Simon Mark became world famous after making a very unusual discovery right beneath his own car. It all started when he thought he had just driven onto a flower bed, but when the wheel of his black car sank into a strange soft spot near his home, he called his father Gerald for help. As the two of them started clearing away the soil and rubble, they realized this wasn't just an ordinary hole. It was the entrance to a World War II air raid shelter. Once inside, they discovered that Simon's house was built directly above this hidden refuge. Soon they found it wasn't just a small dugout, but a full bunker with 2 separate rooms. And unbelievably, Simon's 400,000 pounds home was sitting right on top of a perfectly preserved wartime shelter. Later, Simon and his dad researched online and learned that this neighborhood once had many such shelters built. The one beneath their home was in outstanding condition. Simon believes the original homeowner likely built it after a German bomb exploded near the property, leaving them deeply worried about their safety. Now let's jump back in time to the ill-fated Franklin expedition, a British Arctic voyage led by Sir John Franklin. In 1845, the expedition set sail. Franklin was a Royal Navy officer and an experienced explorer. He had already taken part in 3 Arctic expeditions, twice as the leader. This 4th expedition began when he was 59 years old, with the goal of mapping the last uncharted stretch of the Northwest Passage, the missing link. But the entire expedition, Franklin and all 128 crew members, ultimately perished. Their ships became trapped in Arctic ice near Victoria Strait by King William Island. They never escaped. Fast forward to 1989. John Hartnell, one of the crew, had a great-grandson named Brian Spenceley, who set out to find his ancestor's grave. What scientists found inside those coffins stunned the entire world. On Beechey Island, off the Nunavut coast, they discovered 3 graves, each holding a Franklin crew member, including Captain Franklin himself. And as they excavated, they were shocked. The bodies hadn't decayed. Skin, hair, teeth, even the eyes. Skin and hair, teeth, and even eyes are perfectly preserved in their original state. Imagine gazing at the face of your great-uncle after sleeping in a tomb for 144 years. His face still clearly visible. What a shocking scene. This couple from Northern California, USA, was incredibly lucky. They found a true treasure while walking their dog on their land in Gold Country. Under an old tree, they discovered a batch of well-preserved rare gold coins. They found a total of 1,427 gold coins. Although the face value of these coins was about $27,000, some of them are extremely rare, each potentially worth up to $1 million. Even without considering this estimate, the discovery itself is considered a true gold mine. This treasure likely belonged to a private collector, perhaps hidden to avoid the turmoil after Lincoln's assassination. People only know about the couple, that they lived on this land for years, and wish to remain anonymous. Whale bones are located in Egypt's western desert, Siwa province, preserving important fossils of modern whale ancestors. In July 2005, the site was listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. These paleontological fossils are important evidence of biological evolution, showing how animals that once lived on land evolved into marine creatures, eventually becoming today's whales. Whale bones are the most important site on Earth for showcasing this evolutionary transition. Here are preserved many fossils of creatures that lived over 30 million years ago at the entrance to the Hilton Depression. Among the first fossils discovered is a species called Basilosaurus, a small primitive whale, about 5 meters long. In the transitional stage from land ancestors, a species called Dorodon, a small, primitive whale, about 5 meters long, caught between its land-dwelling ancestors and modern whales in the evolutionary chain, though it was already fully adapted to aquatic life. Another famous fossil is Basilosaurus, a massive animal that could grow up to 20 meters long. Unlike modern whales, which lack teeth, it had a fully developed jaw, lined with 44 sharp teeth, perfect for catching and tearing prey. Now, artist Raphael is a truly unique sculptor. What makes him stand out isn't just his sculptures themselves, but the fact that he uses only hand tools to carve breathtaking underground temples. Working in the sandstone of New Mexico, he slowly hollows out caves and carves organic, flowing forms into the rock walls. His latest masterpiece is called the Luminous Caves. It's a massive complex with openings cut into the walls, so sunlight can filter into the underground chambers. Paulette has created many cave sculptures, following what he describes as a near-sacred process. He calls it the art of subtraction. That's how he describes his craft, finding the most effective way to chisel, so each curve is both beautiful and structurally sound. His caves are just one part of his larger vision of social art. He hopes his creations will inspire change and bring together the diverse communities living in New Mexico's stunning landscapes. Recently, miners in Serbia stumbled upon an incredible find: 3 Roman era ships buried in the silt of an ancient riverbed, where they had been resting for at least 1,300 years. The largest was a 15-meter-long flat cotton vessel, likely built using Roman shipbuilding techniques. The 2 smaller ones were dug out from single tree trunks, similar to the vessels used by Slavic tribes to cross the Danube and raid Roman frontiers like river pirates. These ships were unearthed near the ancient Roman city of Viminacium, which was once the capital of a Roman province and the base of the Danube fleet. They were buried 15 meters underground, sealed beneath 7 meters of clay and mud, which kept them remarkably well preserved, at least until mining equipment accidentally damaged them. Sadly, Heavy machinery caused between 35% and 40% of severe damage to the vessels. This is the largest underground city in the world. Located in Cappadocia, Turkey, it plunges down 75 meters deep. This sprawling complex is made up of a maze of tunnels and caves, spanning an incredible 445 square kilometers, enough to shelter about 20,000 people. It was discovered in the 1960s, when a man stumbled upon it while renovating his home. By accident, he stumbled upon one of the most incredible archaeological discoveries in history. After tearing down a basement wall, he uncovered a massive corridor leading to an 18-level underground city. That city is now known as Derinkuyu. The earliest parts of this astonishing city are believed to have been built by the Hittites around 1400 BC. Archaeologists have explored its structures, reaching depths of nearly 40 meters, but it's believed the lowest levels may go as deep as 85 meters. So far, 20 underground layers have been confirmed. Over time, this city went through major changes, especially during the Byzantine era, when huge stone doors were added that could be shut from the inside to fend off intruders. Similarly, the remains of Richard III, who died in 1485, were uncovered beneath a parking lot in Leicester, England. This discovery sparked new research into the life and fate of this historic figure. Studies by the University of Leicester confirmed that the damaged skeleton belonged to the very king who died at the Battle of Bosworth in 1485, a monarch who had been missing for centuries. Richard III was the last English king to die in battle. That fact alone makes his story even more legendary. DNA testing revealed that the remains found matched a distant descendant of Richard's sister. Geneticist Turi King explained that London carpenter Michael Ibsen shared a rare strand of mitochondrial DNA with the skeleton. The combination of archaeological evidence and DNA confirmed the remains were indeed Richard III's. Meanwhile, hidden deep in the forests of Washington state, an old, dusty barn holds a treasure that any car enthusiast would dream of. Inside this modest building sits a collection of classic American muscle cars from the 1960s and 70s. Each one is more than just transportation, it's a work of art. They're called muscle cars because of their big frames and roaring engines. Among them are rare finds like the Plymouth GTX, Pontiac GTO, and even a pristine Dodge Challenger. It's practically a hidden car museum, filled with V8-powered beasts, many of which were produced in limited numbers. With proper restoration, they could fetch serious buyers. In Japan, however, cars aren't seen as luxury items, just a means of transport. That's why the Japanese usually don't build garages to store old cars. They simply abandon them in the countryside. Sometimes, in these abandoned lots, you can find treasures that car lovers dream of. For example, legendary models like the rare Nissan Skyline and the Toyota Supra. These cars still have huge fan bases worldwide, yet strict Japanese vehicle regulations have doomed them to abandonment. In fact, scrapping a car in Japan is expensive, so many owners just dump their steel steeds in junk yards instead. Even though their parts can be worth a fortune, or the entire car could be priceless to collectors, these engineering masterpieces face a grim future, rusting away as scrap metal, never to be restored. And in rural Kazakhstan, in the middle of a field, people dug up a car, the very same Volga, once beloved by Soviet drivers. The car our grandfathers and great-grandfathers used to drive with pride. But the future of these engineering marvels looks bleak. They'll eventually just turn into scrap metal, never to be restored again. In a rural field in Kazakhstan, people dug up an old car, the beloved Volga that Soviet drivers adored. The very same model, the Volga driven by my great-grandfather. Second gear 12. This car from the 1980s is well preserved. For some reason, it was completely buried underground. When this Soviet-era car was dug out from its earthen garage, the body was remarkably intact. Only the paint had peeled off. All original parts were perfectly intact. Incredibly, the tires could still be inflated. Of course, the interior had rotted, but this car was sturdy enough to be removed from underground without a frame when taken out of the parking lot. Ukraine, the Konstantin mine in the Chervonorad region, also known as the excavator graveyard. It is located in a remote rural area, but in 1987, it was one of the youngest open-pit mines. Mining grade B coal to supply power plants. In 2010, the mine closed, leaving behind land-based mining equipment gradually submerged by rising groundwater. Among these involuntary exhibits is a 4,100-ton, 30-meter-high 16-bucket wheel excavator. This machine once mined over 1 million tons of coal annually, until the tragic fate of these industrial giants turned them into scrap metal. On a pitch-black night, a person walking in an empty field suddenly saw a scene resembling the end of the world. A massive mining excavator standing in the darkness, like a towering pole. This now abandoned industrial monster, 30 meters tall, 120 meters long, its massive body weighs an astonishing 1,980 tons. Despite being abandoned for years, covered in rust, this giant machine still retains most of its original control switches and mechanical components. The scene feels straight out of a disaster movie set. On a quiet beach in Japan's Enoshima, a mysterious iron sphere appeared, leaving local residents and authorities baffled. This perfectly round metallic object bears two mysterious handles, sparking all sorts of absurd and scientific speculations. From spy equipment to dragon eggs, anything is possible. Bomb disposal experts conducted an X-ray analysis, and experts stated it might just be an ordinary mooring buoy. Its sudden appearance and unknown origin made this ordinary object an international mystery. It also showed people how easy it is to create a global media sensation. If you know exactly what it is, feel free to leave a comment. The creator of this video found a forgotten collection of Soviet-era aircraft in the bushes of an abandoned airport. Purpose: this place is like a museum. People can identify various aircraft wreckage, including the legendary Antonov, a Soviet single-engine biplane designed in 1947. Biplane, as well as Yak-52 and Yak-18 trainers, and to helicopters. Their bare, silent airframes could have told more stories about historic flights. But now this once glorious place has been completely overtaken by vegetation. In the heart of Kazakhstan lies one of the most mysterious places on Earth, the legendary Baikonur Cosmodrome, named after a fertile valley. Even today, people can still find truly unusual things here. For example, in a massive hangar, sits a giant Soviet Super Heavy rocket, standing 59 meters tall. It was one of the most powerful launch rockets in the world, outperforming all its competitors at the time. You can also see the famous Buran Snowstorm Space Shuttle. This is the Soviet orbital spacecraft and reusable spacecraft space transportation system. It only ever made one unmanned orbital flight, and afterward was sealed away forever in this time capsule. In December 1980, in Rendlesham Forest, Suffolk, England, occurred what became the UK's most famous UFO sighting, known as the Rendlesham Incident. Military personnel reported seeing strange lights near RAF Woodbridge, along with a mysterious triangular craft covered in odd hieroglyphs. Even high-ranking officials were witnesses. They claimed to have seen beams of light shooting down to the ground. The incident left a lasting impression, and at the site a sculpture was erected, a memorial that's drawn UFO enthusiasts for decades. In the forest near Chernobyl, people discovered a truly chilling sight. Thousands of gas masks piled on the ground, stacked into eerie, massive mounds. These haunting remnants were likely left behind, never disposed of properly. In the chaos following the nuclear disaster, radiation made cleanup incredibly dangerous at the time, although radiation levels have dropped drastically since. These terrifying masks still stand as silent witnesses to one of the worst disasters in history. During the pandemic, when international travel was on hold, researchers visited an airfield near Karavevo, close to Veransk. It once belonged to a flight training school, but after 2017, it was left completely unattended. Now, this once bustling training center looks like something out of a surreal painting. Dozens of abandoned planes scattered across empty fields. Over 30 aircraft now sit defenseless, waiting to be vandalized. Just imagine Vietnamese farmers plowing their fields suddenly strike a buried metal object. The shock must be overwhelming. And what lies beneath their land is nothing like what they'd expect. Not treasure, but a bomb. For years, they had unknowingly lived atop a time bomb. Buried right under their feet was an unexploded bomb, weighing over a ton and 2.5 meters long, just 2 meters beneath their homes. And it was still live. No one could say what might have triggered it to explode. Military experts rushed to the scene, carefully moving the massive weapon. Thankfully, no one was hurt, and nothing was damaged. That family, completely unaware, had lived right above this relic of war for decades and walked away unharmed. Now tell me, can you really say fate doesn't favor some people? In 2010, the tomb of Pandora was finally unearthed again, after being hidden for more than a century. Originally discovered in 1885, it was later buried again by shifting desert sands, only to be reopened by archaeologists more than 100 years later. Inside the tomb of this high-ranking Egyptian official was a secret waiting thousands of years to be revealed. While cleaning the site, archaeologists uncovered several broken jars. One of them contained a hardened substance. Tests revealed it was cheese, one of the oldest foods ever found on Earth. Based on how it was stored and where it was found, Archaeologists guessed it was meant as food, but lab tests revealed a shocking truth. The cheese contained dangerous bacteria that could cause brucellosis. This pathogen spreads through contaminated dairy products. Diseases jumping from animals to humans? ISIS extremists. They actually take pride in destroying ancient sites and artifacts. They never seem to tire of it. They even post videos on social media, showing the whole world how they wreck their own cultural heritage. But ironically, instead of erasing history, they accidentally uncovered incredible treasures buried underground. These artifacts were found in Mosul, Iraq's second largest city, on the eastern side. The extremists stumbled on them while digging tunnels under the Al-Nouri Mosque. That's where they made the discovery. The artifacts date back to the Assyrian era. The Assyrians were a major civilization in Mesopotamia. They thrived from the 21st century BC to the 7th century AD. Archaeologists are now convinced this find is of enormous historical significance. Inside the tunnels, they uncovered Assyrian statues and inscriptions, offering priceless insight into the lives and culture of this ancient civilization. For the people of Iraq, the discovery also felt like poetic justice. After all, during their occupation of Mosul, ISIS completely destroyed the city's museum. Meanwhile, archaeologists near Cairo's Saqqara necropolis found tombs carved into the rocky area around the burial complex of Userkaf, the founder of Egypt's 5th dynasty. They uncovered 7 tombs, complete with cat mummies. According to Egypt's Minister of Antiquities, they also found 100 wooden statues covered in gold leaf and a bronze statue of Bastet, the cat goddess. In Egyptian mythology, Bastet was seen as both a protector against evil and a goddess of fertility. On top of that, they discovered scarab beetle mummies, a type of artifact never before found in this region. In ancient Egypt, cats and other animals weren't just kept as pets by the wealthy. They were even exported to other countries. Animals played an important role in religious worship. Researchers believe tens of millions of animals were turned into mummies. In this excavation, they also found more gilded wooden statues, lions, cows, and falcons, along with sacred scarab figurines. When Egyptians mummified people, it was to preserve the body for the afterlife. But when they mummified animals, it was as a sacred offering. They even discovered wooden and stone coffins shaped like snakes and crocodiles, plus hundreds of protective amulets dedicated to the gods. Next time you're standing on top of an anthill, realize this. Beneath your feet lies a city-state the size of a human metropolis. These incredible structures are so complex, they rival some of the grandest cities on Earth. Many scientists believe ant colonies function like a single superorganism. And in this jaw-dropping documentary, you will see how researchers excavated a deserted site in Brazil for weeks on end, until they revealed a massive fortress, complete with roadways, passageways, and underground gardens. It's believed this underground metropolis was once home to one of the largest ant colonies in the world. And yet, why the ants abandoned it remains a mystery. To map out this sprawling tunnel network, researchers poured 10 tons of concrete into tiny air shafts on the surface that once served as ventilation holes. What they found was an underground city stretching 500 square meters and plunging 8 meters deep. From this massive structure, we can clearly see how these tiny creatures lived. When building their underground kingdom, ants show incredible skill, with highly organized tunnel systems designed with precision. They make sure the air flows well, and that travel routes are as short as possible. No wonder ants are considered the most complex society on Earth, second only to humans. Meanwhile, in Egypt, archaeologists digging in a muddy pit in Cairo uncovered fragments of a giant statue of Pharaoh Ramses II. Ramses II was one of the most powerful rulers of Egypt's 19th dynasty, and this discovery was made right in the middle of a working-class neighborhood in Cairo called Mataria. Soon, teams began recovering the remains of this 3,000-year-old colossal pharaoh statue. It was carved from quartzite, a tough stone made mostly of quartz crystals. So far, archaeologists have recovered the torso, parts of the crown, and even fragments of the eyes. Although Egyptian media worried that heavy machinery might have damaged this ancient monument, and even criticized the use of excavators, officials explained that machines were only used to lift the heaviest piece, the head, while the other fragments were carefully protected with wood and cork supports. This massive statue was found in a courtyard near the ruins of the Sun Temple, built by Ramses II himself. Ramses II ruled Egypt for about 68 years, making him one of the longest-reigning pharaohs in Egyptian history. His reign also marked the height of Egypt's imperial power. Across the sea, in Staffordshire, England, a field revealed the incredible Staffordshire hoard, an Anglo-Saxon treasure that is considered one of the greatest archaeological finds in the British Isles. This hoard contained 1,500 gold and silver items, dating back to as early as the 7th century AD. It was discovered by an amateur treasure hunter named Terry Herbert, who was searching with his metal detector in a friend's field. The artifacts he uncovered weighed about 5 kilograms, including sword hilts, scabbard fittings, and other military gear, plus beautifully jeweled golden plates. Before this discovery, the largest known Anglo-Saxon hoard was the famous Sutton Hoo treasure, found in Suffolk in 1939, and it weighed just 1.5 kilograms. So, when archaeologists studied the hoard, they were both astonished and a little overwhelmed. Herbert himself had been using metal detectors for nearly 18 years. But when he dug up hundreds of glittering artifacts, he was absolutely stunned. This discovery takes us back to a little-known era in British history: the years between the fall of Rome and the rise of Anglo-Saxon power. Now, let's look at a discovery in Asia that truly shocked scientists. What they uncovered wasn't just a tomb, it was a massive burial complex, holding multiple bodies inside. The corpses lay there peacefully, but it's impossible to know if they were buried alive or laid to rest after death. Who were these people? And why were they buried here? The truth may forever remain a mystery. What do you think? Why do you think they were placed here? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In 2003, during the massive redevelopment of London's St. Pancras Station, a nearby cemetery had to be relocated. And during that relocation, workers stumbled upon something strange, a very unusual burial site. That discovery quickly made headlines around the world. A strange burial site. This discovery quickly made headlines all over the world. Inside a damaged coffin, alongside human remains, lay some huge bones that were hard to identify at first. These bones were handed over to anthropologists, but they couldn't figure out where they came from. So, the remains were passed to zoologists, the experts eventually determined that the bones belonged to a Pacific walrus, a creature far bigger than most species around. But why would a walrus turn up in central London and be buried in a coffin with people? Tests revealed the burial dated back to somewhere between 182 and 1854, which means this wasn't just some random accident. Inside the same coffin were also the remains of 3 people. One skull even showed signs of surgical drilling that led researchers to believe it might have been part of a scientific experiment. All the evidence pointed to a medically related burial. Later, scientists discovered that in 1853, the famous British biologist Richard Owen had actually performed a walrus dissection in London. This supported the theory of a medical origin. But why the walrus bones were buried alongside human remains is still a mystery to this day. Miners, on the other hand, are often the first to stumble across incredible archaeological finds. In 2024, during coal mining in North Dakota, workers unexpectedly unearthed a massive woolly mammoth tusk. Mining immediately came to a halt. Archaeologists rushed to the site. The tusk was sent to the lab for analysis. The results showed it was around 50,000 years old. Scientists suspected there might be more remains nearby. So the search continued, and they were right. Soon they uncovered over 20 bone fragments buried in the soil, including ribs, a tooth, and part of a femur, all belonging to the same mammoth. Mammoths first appeared on Earth about 5 million years ago, and went extinct between 5,000 and 10,000 years ago. They were the ancestors of modern elephants, standing 5 to 6 meters tall at the shoulder, weighing up to 11 tons. Despite their size, mammoths were gentle herbivores, peaceful by nature. They first lived in Africa, then spread into Eurasia and North America. Their extinction was partly linked to the arrival of humans. Hunting was one of the reasons they disappeared. The North Dakota discovery was considered a real sensation. According to experts, it was the most complete mammoth skeleton ever found in the region. Some science projects sound like pure science fiction, but eventually they become reality. In the 1960s, the Soviet Union launched a bold experiment. Geologists decided to drill a super deep borehole to reach closer to Earth's crust. They chose the Kola Peninsula for this ambitious project because it sat on a 3 billion-year-old block of ancient crystalline bedrock. Drilling began in 1970. At first, progress was smooth. In just 9 years, they had already drilled down over 9.5 kilometers. But then serious problems started. Drill bits broke. The shaft began to collapse. Despite these huge challenges, drilling pressed on. By 1990, geologists had reached a depth of 12,226 meters, the deepest point ever dug by humans. Even the Mariana Trench is over 4 kilometers shallower than this borehole. By 1994, the drilling finally came to an end. Extreme temperatures and pressure made it impossible to drill any deeper. Even so, scientists still gathered a huge amount of data about the Earth's crust, underground water, and the heat processes deep inside our planet. Today, the Kola Super Deep Borehole remains a one-of-a-kind sight, still astonishing people to this day. and sparking endless discussions. The Paris catacombs are one of the most mysterious and eerie places in the French capital. It's heavily guarded. Yet even today, strange events still happen in those dark, cold corridors. Strange events still happen in those dark, cold corridors. In 2004, the Paris police squad in charge of catacomb security was doing a routine check in a tunnel branching off from Trocadero. At the entrance, they found a sign that read, "Construction site, keep out." But no repair work had ever been reported there. That instantly raised their suspicions. Ignoring the warning, the officers pushed forward. After just a few steps, it felt like they had entered another world. Along the tunnel walls, there were surveillance cameras and speakers blasting recordings of barking dogs. And at the tunnel's end, an even bigger surprise awaited. A fully equipped underground cinema. It had a big screen, rows of seats, and even a bar on the side, stocked with alcohol and snacks. Even more shocking, the place wasn't just powered by electricity. It even had 3 working phone lines. The police were stunned and rushed back to headquarters to report it. But when they returned later with reinforcements, the theater had been completely abandoned. The wires were cut, and the only thing left was an ominous message. Don't mess with things that aren't your business. Finding out who built this hidden place was practically impossible. According to police, secret spots like this pop up in the catacombs from time to time, and shutting them down isn't always easy. Even in 21st century Paris, the catacombs still keep their secrets. Humans have always longed to leave a trace for the future. Some toss bottles with messages into the sea. Others carve inscriptions into cave walls. But in 1957, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, people came up with a far more creative idea. They sealed away a car as a time capsule. The city of Tulsa decided, why not leave something truly luxurious for future generations? Plymouth Motors loved the idea and donated a brand new, golden Plymouth Belvedere 2-door coupe. It came with the most advanced technology of its time. Workers sealed the car inside an underground vault, along with a flag, some newspapers, a small amount of gasoline, and even a $100 bill. They even set up a contest. Whoever guessed Tulsa's population in 2007 would win the prize. 50 years passed, and on the big day, crowds gathered in the square. The vault was opened, but instead of a gleaming car of the future, what emerged was nothing but rusted metal. The protective vault had failed, and water had slowly eaten away at the once grand Plymouth. That magnificent car had turned into a sad monument to broken dreams. By then, the lottery winner who guessed the population had passed away. So his sister inherited the prize. She received the corroded remains of the car, some antique trinkets, and the $100 bill. After decades of inflation, that money had lost most of its value. Even so, the story of Miss Belvedere still lives on today. A reminder of the past, and the future connected even through a rusty time capsule. The bond never fades. Modern cities keep reaching higher and higher. Skyscrapers have become their symbols. But in ancient times, people chose a very different path. They built their homes underground. One of the most remarkable examples of this is the underground city of Derinkuyu in Turkey. It was discovered by accident in 1963. Since then, historians have debated endlessly about who actually built this incredible underground complex and why it was made. Some evidence suggests it was constructed sometime between 2000 BC and 17 BC. Some scholars are convinced it was the work of the Phrygians. Others argue it was the Hittites. Built around 1900 BC. But no matter the truth, the sheer scale of Derinku is absolutely breathtaking. It has 8 full levels, each with its own defense systems. Behind narrow corridors, just 40 centimeters wide, stood massive stone doors weighing half a ton. Hidden passageways, it's like a giant maze. Designed to confuse any invader? This wasn't just a refuge. It was a fully functional underground city. There were homes, storerooms, armories, stables, and even temples. Amazingly, it could house up to 20,000 people at once. Even though the lowest level is 60 meters deep, the city was equipped with a sophisticated ventilation system, and it still works today. The most astonishing part, Derinku is connected by a tunnel to another underground city, Kaymakli. This proves that ancient people weren't just hiding. They were building an entire network of underground settlements, complete with escape routes. Derinku's uniqueness still amazes even the most seasoned archaeologists. It's truly one of a kind. Next, explorers stumbled upon a real architectural miracle. Lost to time. Behind these crumbling walls lay hidden a grand Italian church from the 13th century. Even after centuries of neglect, its ornate wall decorations and intricate facades remain surprisingly well preserved. Inside, the most striking find was an old bronze carriage with no signs of restoration, no tourists crowding around. The exhibits seem even more captivating. What do you think? Deep in a frozen swamp, a group of military historians made an extraordinary discovery. They found a batch of World War II-era ammunition. This ammunition had been preserved under ice for decades. In the wooden crates they retrieved were thousands of perfectly sealed bullets. This significant discovery requires careful handling under strict protocols. These potentially dangerous items must remain in the forest until properly neutralized before they can be transferred to a museum. Imagine, while walking through a forest, you suddenly see a place resembling a scene from the Truman Show, like a 25-meter-high massive wall, hidden in the woods, cleverly camouflaged to avoid prying eyes. The surface of the high wall is painted with trees, so it doesn't stand out from a distance. This massive decorative wall repeatedly hides its secrets from tourists, possibly a military facility, a politician's shelter, or a secret locals are reluctant to mention. On the Pacific coast of Hokkaido, Japan, there is a concrete military bunker built by the Japanese military at the end of World War II, 5 meters wide and 6 meters deep. Due to coastal erosion washing away surrounding soil, this structure is exposed at the edge of a cliff, creating a surreal illusion of hanging in the air. Hidden in a forest in the United States is a military stronghold, a whole lineup of M60 tanks, once the backbone of the U.S. Army. Each had 750 horsepower and could reach 48 kilometers per hour. Their maximum range was 480 kilometers. Now they sit in perfect rows, beside 14 dismantled M113 armored personnel carriers. Each of those once carried 15 soldiers and could run at 68 kilometers per hour. For decades, they've rested in this quiet place, slowly swallowed by nature. A legendary T-34 tank was pulled from Askov Marsh after 64 years underwater. It was recovered in June 2003. During the 1943 Veliky Luki offensive, the tank sank into the swamp at its position. When found, it stood almost upright. With its turret facing the shore, its hull was coated in mud and aquatic plants. After months of preparation, it was lifted from 6 meters deep in the swamp. Locals recalled that German troops had tried to break through at the time. The tank accidentally sank and was lost in silence. Attempts were made during the war to recover it, but it stayed buried for over 60 years. Yet it was astonishingly well preserved. After restoration, it could run again, earning the nickname Sniper. Today, only a handful still exist, near Cozumel Island in the Caribbean. A retired Mexican Navy minesweeper lies beneath the waves, the Felipe Zico Tencatl. This 60-meter-long vessel once patrolled the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea. It was decommissioned in 1999 and deliberately sunk in 2000 to create an artificial reef and a diving attraction. Today its wreck rests 25 meters below the surface. The former crew quarters are now home to schools of tropical fish. Beneath modern San Francisco streets lie hundreds of old wooden ships. In 1848, James Marshall discovered gold, igniting the gold rush. By 1849, thousands of prospectors had flooded in. Sailors abandoned their ships and rushed straight to the mines. Many failed and left, never to return. Their abandoned ships rusted away. Some were hauled ashore and turned into buildings, like the Niantic Hotel. After the Great Fire of 1851, many ships sank to the bay floor. Locals used a legal loophole to claim ownership of the land beneath the wrecks. When the bay was filled in, the ships were buried underground. Even today, when digging subway tunnels or parking lots, crews still uncover shipwreck remains, like at the Seawall Station site, where they found the boiler room of the Lydia gold ship, with dozens of bottles of ale inside. One subway line even cuts straight through the hull of a 60-meter-long ship. Back in the year 79 AD, Mount Vesuvius erupted and buried the ancient city of Pompeii. It remained forgotten for nearly 1,500 years. In 1599, workers accidentally uncovered it while digging a canal. Large-scale excavations began in 1748. The volcanic ash had perfectly preserved the city. Archaeologists continue to make discoveries even today. In 1895, the Boscorial treasure was found in the Villa Pisanella. Over 100 pieces of silverware and 1,000 gold coins, including a cup showing Emperor Tiberius with triumphal imagery. There was also one of the earliest known Christian chapels, featuring coins marked with crosses and wooden relics. Even the plaster casts of victims froze their final expressions and postures in heartbreaking detail. At the end of 2024, British scientists used advanced radar to skim beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. They discovered hidden caves more than 100 meters below. Inside, a city. It can't yet be entered directly, but researchers are preparing a full investigation. They plan to install sensors to gather data. So far, dozens of structures have been detected inside, including towers. The pointed arch domes soared up to 30 meters high. The layout was neatly arranged, with streets and plazas, as if built by intelligent beings. If they really were man-made, it would overturn everything we thought we knew about human history and lost civilizations. During World War II, the Nazis plundered cultural treasures from occupied lands. In 1940, Göring ordered the seizure of books, medals, and church relics from Germany and its occupied territories. But one Polish priest and his parishioners buried 150 kilos of bronze near their church. In 2021, workers laying pipe stumbled upon it. Now it's displayed in a museum. A symbol of faith, courage, and defiance against tyranny. Near Dixon, along the Laptev Sea coast, deep in the Arctic, lies Bolshevik Island, home to one of the northernmost ship graveyards. Resting ships and aircraft are trapped in the permanent ice. Among them, the 1974 wreck of the motor ship Jirikshi, the DP-2, which leaked fuel, several old tugboats, and even plane crash remains. The fuselage of an AN-124 still lies visible in the snow. Meanwhile, in Chile's Atacama Desert, road crews uncovered over 40 complete whale skeletons. They included blue whales, rare extinct dolphin fossils, marine biological fossils. Scientists determine, millions of years ago, these marine giants died from ingesting toxic algae. Washed ashore by storms, this area was once an ocean. Now it has become an arid desert. After 30 years of searching by a researcher, a megalodon burial site was discovered here. 17 complete megalodon teeth found within a week. This was once a rich fishing ground, a dream destination for fossil hunters. In South African granite, a 120-centimeter long footprint-like impression was discovered. Some hypothesize 200 million years ago, giants 7 to 7.5 meters tall walked on these rocks. Geologists believe it was formed by natural weathering. Blue stone patterns, resembling horn-like shapes. Researchers using metal detectors discovered an ancient cave, sealed with clay lids, containing centuries-old gold ornaments, silver jewelry, and ancient coins, deliberately hidden treasures. Witnessing people's protection of wealth during turbulent times. Explorers in an abandoned limestone mine discovered unusual stairs, appearing to extend deep underground. After counting only 10 steps, they disappear into darkness. They also discovered the largest underground cave to date, with smooth rock walls, cave ceiling over 30 meters high, vast space. Flashlights cannot illuminate the bottom of underground pools hidden in darkness, creating enormous echoes. Like an independent world, scientists within ancient rock walls discovered 16,000-year-old rock dwellings with multiple rooms and living areas with fireplaces, surfaces polished with primitive tools, well preserved, showcasing prehistoric human architectural wisdom. A tourist discovered late at night in the forest an abandoned small chapel built in the late 12th century. Once served as a place of worship for over 600 years. Now most of the hall is destroyed. The wilderness has reclaimed it, creating a mysterious atmosphere. Near the Swedish coast, divers in the Baltic Sea discovered the wreckage of a 19th century sunken ship. The cargo hold contained 100 bottles of aged champagne and several bottles of Selters mineral water. Back then, that mineral water was as precious as medicine. The labels revealed it was produced between 1850 and 1867. Amazingly, the company still exists today. Meanwhile, along the Delaware River in New Jersey, lies a famous ship graveyard. Among them, the 39-meter Barnegat lightship. Built in 1904, it once guided ships past dangerous shoals, then patrolled during World War II. Before being retired in 1967, one of the few to survive. This shipwreck even made it onto the list of the world's top 10 endangered sites of important historical heritage. Deep in the English Channel, a 50,000-ton Norwegian car carrier, called the Marco, sank in 2002 after a collision. It was carrying nearly 3,000 cars at the time. Within 2 weeks, it was involved in 3 collisions. Salvage crews managed to recover thousands of cars from 30 meters below the surface. The operation was hailed as one of Europe's most unusual and most challenging marine salvage missions ever. In the Solomon Islands Bay stood the World Discover cruise ship, built in 1975. With 7 decks, on April 30, 2000, it struck an uncharted reef. The captain steered it into Roderick Bay to beach it safely. Passengers were all evacuated, but the ship itself couldn't be saved. Near Alvarado lies the 157-meter-long Magic Capri cruise ship, with 248 luxury cabins, able to host 937 passengers and 155 crew members. After a violent storm, it broke free from its anchors, drifted, and was abandoned on Lee Beach. Although there were plans to scrap it in 2020, it still sits there almost intact. The furniture and lifeboats remain in place. In the Red Sea lies a Lockheed L-1011 TriStar passenger jet. In the 1980s, it served with a Royal Airline. Later abandoned at an airport, it was deliberately sunk in 2019, between 15 and 28 meters deep, to form an artificial reef. Now it's a hot spot for wreck divers. A kayaker once stumbled upon a retired military submarine. It had been drifting since its decommissioning in the early 2000s. Rumor has it, it once carried out secret missions. The government even put it up for sale in Ibiza, and a beer hoped to turn it into a tourist attraction. But controversy shelved the idea. On the shore of the Skoye Reservoir in Moscow Oblast stands the command tower of the Soviet Union's first nuclear missile submarine, K-19. It suffered 3 major accidents, earning the grim nickname Hiroshima. There's even a film about its disasters and crises. The command tower was turned into a monument, with the help of former crew members. It honors 32 sailors who sacrificed their health and lives, exposing themselves to radiation to prevent disaster. In the suburbs of Moscow, a man picking mushrooms stumbled across a submarine in a swamp. Turns out, it was a marketing stunt by a construction company to lure in investors for a housing project. The ad costs have already been recouped. In the forests of British Columbia, Canada, on the slopes of Radar Hill, rests a World War II-era Catalina flying boat. It was widely used as a patrol aircraft, but made an emergency landing due to engine trouble. The fuselage still lies quietly in the woods. In March 2012, a Polish oil exploration team in Egypt's western desert, at Al Wadi Al Kid region, discovered a P-40 Kitty Hawk fighter plane. From the RAV's 260 Squadron, it was piloted by Dennis Copping in March 1942, and abandoned after an emergency landing. The shark-mouth nose art was still visible, though the landing gear was wrecked. They found a parachute at the scene, but no body. It's believed the pilot escaped, but died trying to reach civilization. On the black sand plains of southern Iceland lies the wreck of a Douglas DC-3, one of the most produced planes in aviation history. It made its final landing on November 21, 1973. Thankfully, the crew all survived. Today, it draws photographers eager to capture its stark contrast against volcanic landscapes. In the jungles of Southeast Asia, a massive tunnel-boring machine shield was left behind. It once carved tunnels, but when the project was halted, moving it proved too costly. Now, it's overgrown with jungle. Alongside a railway in Romania built in 1928, hidden in the brush, sits a rusted freight locomotive. Modeled after Prussian designs, it made its last run to Falkenberg, Germany, before being abandoned in the Alaskan wilderness. Since 1913, 3 locomotives and 19 railcars have been left behind, a train with no destination, left to quietly rust. This locomotive, built in 1910, got stranded when a storm destroyed a bridge. It's been stuck 40 kilometers from the town of Nome ever since. It never once ran on its planned route. Back in the gold rush, a 158-kilometer narrow-gauge railway was planned to transport gold. But when the company went bankrupt in 1907, everything was abandoned. In the forests of Maryland, USA, lies the childhood home of Sylvester Stallone himself. In the 1950s, Rocky even lived there again for a while. Now abandoned, it still holds traces of his early years. Resting next to the house are classic cars, including the very first Mercedes S-Class, and even a 1929 Mercedes SSK. None have been restored, which is pretty hard to believe. Deep inside abandoned mines under the Swiss mountains, a museum curator once stored more than 200 classic Volkswagens. The mines have been shut for over 40 years. The cars now sit covered in dust and rust, some even stripped for parts. The curator once painted insects in the Blue Hole Cave, then simply abandoned these cars. Visitors exploring the tunnels might still stumble upon a hidden gem. In Portland, Oregon, the Shanghai tunnels were built in the 19th century. They connected the waterfront with shops, bars, and more originally to move cargo without street congestion. But later, they were linked to kidnappings and shady dealings, earning them a dark reputation. Historians still debate the scale, but explorers can't resist the mystery. In Tokyo, Japan, to prepare for heavy rain and potential tsunamis, the world's largest underground flood control system was built. It has 5 massive water tanks, all linked by 6 kilometers of tunnels. Pumps can empty an Olympic pool in just seconds, keeping the city safe from flooding. In Naples lies the ancient Galleria Borbonica, with over 2,400 years of history. The Greeks dug it. The Romans expanded it. It stored supplies and water, served as a black market hub, and even a World War II shelter. No household relics remain, but tunnels once linked royal palaces and military barracks. Adventurers still explore them today. In Edinburgh, Scotland, vaults were built in the late 18th century. They began as storerooms for merchants and craftsmen, but later became shelters for vagrants and hotbeds of crime. Eventually abandoned due to dampness, they were rediscovered by archaeologists at the century's end, filled with relics of daily life. In northern France, near Arras, lies a tunnel system carved from stone. It was first used for surprise attacks. During WWI, French troops lived here. The walls are covered in thousands of soldier drawings and carvings, precious insights into their lives. Personal items and military gear were also found, and parts of the tunnels remain unexplored. In Montreal, Canada, a vast underground complex called Rizzo was built in the 1960s. Dozens of kilometers of corridors link malls, hotels, and more, buzzing with life in the cold months, with thousands of shops, cafes, and more. Hundreds of thousands of people use it daily. It's like a self-contained underground city. In Sentinel de las Bodegas, Andalusia, Spain, homes and cafes are built right into the rock. People have lived here since prehistoric times, using caves for shelter. Today, thousands still call it home. The interiors stay cool naturally, and tourists flock here to walk rock-lined streets, sip wine, and enjoy tapas. Legends even speak of hidden treasure tunnels deep in the cliffs. In Pilsen, Czech Republic, a vast underground tunnel network was built between the 13th and 19th centuries. It was first used to store water, food, and beer, then later linked to warehouses. Dozens of kilometers of stone passages formed an underground city with drainage systems. Archaeologists later uncovered medieval artifacts here. Today, parts of the tunnels are open to tourists. In Corsham, England, lies Burlington, a massive underground city built in the 1950s to survive nuclear attacks. It was designed as a secret refuge for thousands, complete with roads, a communication center, a hospital, and supplies for 3 months. Rumors even say it was linked to rail lines for emergency evacuation. But after the Soviet Union collapsed, it was never used. But the passageways are still intact. In 1963, a man in Turkey knocked down a wall in his home and discovered the underground city of Derinkuyu. It goes down nearly 18 levels, big enough to house around 20,000 people. It had ventilation shafts, water wells, and massive stone doors to block invaders. Archaeologists believe it was a wartime hideout. Today, only part of it is open to tourists. In Iran's Kish Island lies the Keres system, over 2,000 years old, a labyrinth stretching for kilometers underground. It's 16 meters deep and was built to collect and store fresh water. Its ceilings are lined with fossil shells over 100 million years old. This was once seabed. Now, some halls have been transformed into galleries, cafes, and spaces where tourists can enjoy art. In South Dakota, the old Homestake Gold Mine is now the Sanford Underground Research Facility. It's massive. Scientists study particle physics and cosmology here. The rock shields experiments from cosmic radiation, making it ideal for dark matter research. Raymond Davis even won a Nobel Prize for his work here. It's home to some of the most sensitive labs in the world. Meanwhile, in New York City, a bold plan was made for Manhattan: turn an abandoned trolley terminal into the low-lying park. They'd use fiber optic mirrors to pipe in sunlight and grow plants. Though funding and approval have been challenges, the project continues as a model for reimagining urban spaces. In Colorado's Mesa Verde Plateau stands the Cliff Palace, built by the ancestral Pueblones in the 12th–13th centuries. It's tucked into a massive rock face. Inside are Kiva's ceremonial rooms for rituals. The residents eventually left, likely due to drought. But they left behind handprints and symbols. The Hopi and Zuni people see themselves as their descendants and help preserve the site today. In Coober Pedy, Australia's outback, an opal rush in the early 1900s led to mining fever. With scorching heat above, locals built homes underground. They even have underground shops and museums. Once, opal mining was everywhere. Now the deposits are dwindling. But some still search, sometimes even hiding their best finds. In Iran's Samantown, a man digging a sewer trench stumbled upon an underground city over 1,500 years old. It runs 3 to 20 meters deep, multi-level, with rooms and halls. It has stairs, ventilation shafts, and even traps. At first, families built their own homes. But later, they connected into a hive-like network. They lit it with oil lamps and used wells and cisterns for water, some still being explored. In Ohio, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is famous for Hangar 18 rumors, supposedly hiding UFO wreckage and alien bodies. Even senators once tried to get in, but were denied. Nearby, at Wright State University, tunnels spark talk of hidden underground labs. None of it has ever been confirmed. In Moose Jaw, Canada, tunnels snake beneath a town. During Prohibition in the 1920s, bootleggers were said to use them for brewing. Some even claim Al Capone did business here, though there's no proof. Today, the tunnels are open for tour, with historical reenactments and shows. Entrepreneur Robert Vicino launched the Vivos Underground Bunker Project. One near Barstow, California, can hold 200 people. Designed to withstand multiple disasters, it even offers a year's supply of food. The goal is a global bunker network. Some investors even want to store genetic material here. Critics say it's elitist because of the high cost. But Vicino insists it's a sacred mission. And finally, picture the ancient Nabatean city. Its entrance lies through the Sick Canyon. A water channel runs alongside. At its heart is the treasury, a rock-carved masterpiece. The caves once held up to 30,000 people, complete with an advanced water system. Forgotten for centuries, it was rediscovered by explorers in the early 19th century. In Guanajuato, Mexico, silver mining boomed here in the 16th century. Underground tunnels were built for operations. During the War of Independence, revolutionaries used them to hide and move weapons. Today, there's even a mummy museum here, featuring naturally mummified bodies. The tunnels are also decorated with street art. And local legends speak of hidden treasure. Near Krakow, Poland lies the Wieliczka salt mine. Salt has been mined here since the 13th century. Today it's a vast underground complex, stretching hundreds of meters deep, with tunnels and caves spanning dozens of kilometers. The halls are decorated with salt crystal carvings, and even an underground lake. The acoustics are amazing, perfect for events and concerts. There's even a breathing therapy zone. Back then, miners stored fresh water to wash away salt. Mexico City once planned an earth scraper, a massive underground pyramid-shaped skyscraper, stretching dozens of stories deep, with a central courtyard and a glass roof to bring in sunlight. It was designed because The city center lacked space to expand. The plan included housing, offices, and more, but bureaucracy slowed its progress. Still, it inspired ideas for future urban development. Singapore has plans for an underground science city, covering hundreds of thousands of square meters, with labs deep underground, along with offices and more, designed to house thousands of researchers, using geothermal energy for temperature control and isolating noise. From industrial facilities, Singapore already has underground malls, reservoirs, and more. This project could offer a solution for land-scarce cities worldwide.